All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here for our session today. I hope everyone's having a good time at reInvent. My name is Alex Jones. I lead growth marketing for AWS Marketplace, and with me we have Patrick Ludwig, who leads our international development efforts. So today we're going to talk to you about how to grow internationally by leveraging product-led growth through AWS Marketplace. I'm going to start by going through what product-led growth is all about, why it's important, and how to activate it through AWS Marketplace. And then Patrick's going to go through how to really make your international sales fluid. So I love this topic. Having spent the majority of my career in developer marketing, there's nothing that resonates with me more than being helpful to our target audience. And to me, that's what product-led growth is all about. It's how companies like HubSpot, Twilio, and a whole host of new AI startups have been growing from zero to meaningful recurring revenue levels, all without having to first invest in a global sales team. And so what is it? PLG is a go-to-market strategy where the product itself drives customer acquisition, conversion, and revenue. And there's three key things that I want to leave you with today, is that PLG is focused on the end user. We're talking about the practitioner or the developer who's hands-on keyboard getting value out of your product. Next, its self-service experience is incredibly important. We need the end user to be able to find your product, try it, and figure out how to use it, all without being able to talk to a human. And now the product also acts as a sales channel. And especially when paired with a cloud marketplace, the product experience drives monetization and growth and makes it really easy to purchase. And today in particular, it's powerful when we're talking about scaling through a cloud marketplace. All right, hopefully the feedback isn't killing anybody, but let me tell you about why this is important right now. We're seeing a few different trends come together. The first is a shift towards self-service. Buyers increasingly want to buy through self-service, and we did a study last year that indicated 80% of cloud marketplace users plan to procure more in the next 2 years. And AWS Marketplace today, over 80% of our subscriptions are self-service. And if we pair that with the fact that we're seeing rising power of the developer, with even back in 2021, IDC doing a developer survey that showed that 70 to 79% of developers feel that they have either complete or significant influence over purchases in their organization. And then if we pair this as well with the fact that cloud marketplaces spend is accelerating and forecasted to reach $163 billion by the year 2030, we have a strong convergence here where we've got buyers. Our users are no longer just users, they're buyers, and they want to buy through self-service, coming together with the fastest growing channel for software distribution today. And the way to take advantage of that opportunity is by activating product-led growth through AWS Marketplace. So if you're not yet familiar with AWS Marketplace, it's a proven channel for AWS partners to grow. A lot of partners report faster, shorter sales cycles, increased renewal rates, and the ability to grow faster generally through cloud marketplace. And for buyers, it provides a single destination where buyers can find, try, and buy all of the software they need to be successful with what they're building on AWS across 70 different categories. And critically for our conversation today, Marketplace is available in 37 different regions to support your international expansion. And so now let's consider our go-to-market model with the need to expand internationally. If we approach with traditional sales-led growth, we need to typically have a legal entity in a market. We need to have salespeople in a market, and we're making bets on where we're going to best realize that growth. We tend to see high customer acquisition costs and longer sales cycles in comparison with a product-led growth strategy, which really flips this on its head, where when your product is listed in AWS Marketplace, it's accessible in 190 different countries from day one. So your product now becomes your global sales team, and it doesn't matter whether your customer is in Singapore or Seattle. And because everything is done through self-service, you have a lower customer acquisition cost, and Marketplace is there to help simplify the operations of all of that. And so let's talk about how that recurring revenue model actually works through Marketplace. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to bring up a model that's originally developed by Dave Boyce at Winning by Design. But if you take a look at the left-hand side there, we have the discovery and acquisition layer. When your product is available in Marketplace, it's now discoverable in AWS consoles, It's available to be found within the marketplace experience yourself and through the co-marketing efforts that we do together. If you take a look at the middle section of the model, we're looking how users can take a look at using a free tier or free trial, experience value for that and using that product, and be willing to pay as you go for consumption. And that billing is all done through AWS. And if we follow this through now, that frees up our salespeople from cold prospecting to be able to focus on helping our users expand their usage of the product and achieve more impact and expand recurring revenue. And also upgrade them to private offers, which are committed contracts in AWS Marketplace. And PLG also gives us a lot of really great data to use customer behavior to guide where we go next. We can look for signals like how traffic is getting to our marketplace product listing page, how those visitors are turning into new subscriptions or signups, and where we have signals of strong product market fit, where those free users are turning into paid customers and expanding usage. And then if we take a look at adding on also things like support tickets and where active users are looking to expand their use cases and get help from you, that can give us a good cluster of signals to say, hey, we need to go invest in establishing a stronger sales presence in this market. And so how do we help AWS partners get started? We have a program called AWS Marketplace Seller Prime. Any ISV can sign up for the program and take advantage of best practices that we offer and provide a roadmap on what good looks like. We offer conversion optimization tips and strategies for how to get the most out of your marketplace product listing. And then we also provide support for activating your own marketing campaigns, including funding to help get those campaigns off the ground. Any partners that participate in the program are also prioritized for inclusion in our AWS-led campaigns so that we can help amplify your own discovery efforts. Incorporated in this as well is PLG go-to-market reporting so that you get a better understanding of where visitors are getting to your product page from and how to optimize your tactics to really drive conversion. So now let's take a minute to take a look at what this looks like in practice. And I'm going to leave you with one thing here. Make sure that you don't list your product in Marketplace and just expect users to find it and consume it. You need to make sure that you're tying in your product in Marketplace to your overall company's go-to-market strategy. And if we take a look how a company like Databricks has been doing this over the last couple of years, you see that they've been able to increase the volume of traffic to Marketplace product listing by 9x, realizing 5x improvement on subscriptions, which is then in turn driving self-service consumption revenue. And their sales team is then able to take that pool of self-service subscribers and upgrade them to private offers. And if you take a look at a different company, a smaller startup in the vector database space, over a shorter time frame, you see a similar pattern with increased traffic, subscriptions, and 3x improvements on revenue. So we can see a consistent pattern here. When you're able to get high quality traffic to your marketplace product listing and drive those initial visitors to become self-service subscribers, then your sales team is able to take those subscriptions, upgrade to private offers and committed contracts. And so with that said, I'm going to introduce Patrick, who's going to be able to help explain how we can operationalize this internationally using AWS Marketplace's global infrastructure. Take it away, Patrick.
Awesome, thank you, Alex. Awesome, now that we've learned how our product helps us to attract customers in over 190 different countries via the AWS Marketplace, I want to spend a little bit of time with you and showing you how AWS Marketplace operationally supports you transacting with customers around the globe. And Alex mentioned it already in his introduction. When we think about AWS Marketplace operationally, we think about fluidity. What we mean by that is that your transactions run through smoothly, right? Private offers can be done within minutes. Customers can subscribe to your products within a few clicks. And we want to give you the right processes, tools, and systems that the transaction doesn't hit a wall because there's some unanswered questions that may block you from implementing your PLG strategy. And these are questions that are completely coming up normally and that we discuss with our sellers, such as, do we need to translate our listing now that we're going to market globally with the AWS Marketplace? With our current setup in the AWS Marketplace, can our entity even sell to customers around the globe? And when we do transact with these customers, how do we handle local currencies and how should we set up our RevOps processes to support that? And last but not least, there's also the questions around meeting local regulations and fulfilling our tax duties in those regions. Our vision, our goal with the AWS Marketplace is that we support you in a way with those questions, that the marketplace becomes your preferred global route to market by enabling those local experiences in the countries that you operate in. What it means is making your software feel native in every market that you sell into. How are we achieving that? Well, AWS Marketplace has already built in automated compliance in the regions you go to market in. We provide efficiency as well as localized experiences for our customers. Sounds good, right? Let's look a little bit into more details, what it means to our questions that we asked ourselves at the beginning. And the first one was around, do we need to localize our listings? Do we now need to go in, right, and translate it 100 times? And the good news is, no, we do that for you. AWS Marketplace has automated translation available. And whether it's that buyer that wants to explore your product in Japanese, well, we provide a product listing in Japanese. If a French-speaking customer wants to check out or you send them a private offer, they can explore that offer in French. We already translated that for you. And a very cool thing that I like a lot as well is you can opt in to use our standardized licensing terms, and we provide translated copies of that as well so that the Spanish-speaking customer can explore the terms that govern the use of your software in their native language. That makes your software feel native in those local markets. Yeah, the question we've been asking ourselves, right, and Alex has been showing us how we can set up one entity to go to market in 190 countries. So thanks for spoiling that a little bit. You don't need to set up new entities. We support your businesses to be registered from over 40 different jurisdictions. I highlighted India there because that was our latest addition to that model. So if you have a business registered in India, you can set it up as a seller in the marketplace and transact globally. If you have multiple local entities, for example, you have also an entity in Germany to support your transactions with German customers in local currencies, set it up as a seller in the marketplace as well. There's no blocking you doing that. This question was around regulations and tax duties. And this is what I mean with the automated compliance of the AWS Marketplace. In most of the countries and regions where you're transacting in with the AWS Marketplace, we're automatically assessing, collecting, and remitting local taxes. And with our global operator model, with local AWS entities facilitating your transactions, for example, our entities in the US, in EMEA, Australia, Japan, and our latest addition in Korea, your customers get invoiced for the purchase of your solutions from the same AWS entity that they receive their AWS invoices from. That also provides localized tax treatments for even more countries and supporting local payment systems such as SEPA payments in Europe. The last question was around the currencies and your local RevOps processes. How do we consolidate the payments from around the world? Well, you set this up when you register and when you set up as a seller in the AWS Marketplace. Those of you that registered already, maybe you remember that first step where you set up the currencies that you want to support in the AWS Marketplace and your bank accounts. And I want to underline accounts. You can add multiple local bank accounts and associate them with your currency. So if you want to support euros, you can add your local European bank account to then be targeted for the euro payouts. Similarly, AWS customers set up their billing preferences with AWS when they set up their account. So me as a German AWS customer, I may set up my AWS billing that I receive my AWS invoices in Europe. But let's make this transaction circle here. So you quote in your currency. By default, all of your product, your public product listings, the ones that you support your PLG with, are in US dollars. But you can choose to do a private transaction with your customer in the currencies, for example, like euro, Japanese yen, Australian dollars, okay? The customer is then invoiced by the local AWS entity when they purchase your solution in the format that they set up when they set up their AWS account. Customer pays the use of your service via their AWS invoice, and we would then pay you out in the currency that you quoted in, okay? So there's no surprises for you. The currency that you set up at the beginning of the transaction is the currency you receive, and we're gonna target the bank account that you choose, okay? So you can set up your local entities to receive the payments when you quote a customer in local currencies. Let's bring it all together again. And maybe you're familiar with that view from Alex's part, right? What I want to tell you with that is, whether you have a sales-led go-to-market strategy, or you're starting now with your product-led go-to-market strategy, or you do a hybrid of both, something we're seeing every day as well, right? AWS Marketplace is there to support you then with local compliance, localized invoicing experience, and an overall localized purchasing experience for your customer, making your software, your product feel native in every market you sell into. So what does it mean now for your product sales-led growth strategy? We're going to start with that. A few best practices we're seeing there. If you're going to market already via your local entities, do set them up as seller as well, right? Reduce the workarounds you have to do in order to transact with a German customer and going via your US entity. Set up the German entity if it's there, and enable local currency transactions and set up those bank accounts in region where the transaction is happening. On the product-led growth side, I mean everything that Alex said. Thanks for all the tips and best practices there. Do optimize your listings, knowing we localize it in the region, and use the Seller Prime program to fund your go-to-market initiatives. So let's end it up with fluidity again, the way how we started it. And I want to do the fluidity check with you by introducing you to two case studies. The first one is Veronis. I know it's a long quote, so let me walk you through it. What Veronis did is actually setting up their local entities as sellers in the AWS Marketplace and enabling local currency transactions under those local entities. What they got in outcome is that now the deal desk and the RevOps teams of Veronis are treating marketplace transactions just like they would do any other transaction. What does that do? That removes frictions. They don't have to do any, workarounds at the last minute of a transaction. It just flows through smoothly, and it helps them to accelerate their transactions. Another example that I brought with me today is the example of Snowflake, one of those vendors that transacted over $1 billion in 2024. Also, Snowflake leverages the automated compliance with the AWS Marketplace where they can, and they set up to mirror their regional RevOps processes with the AWS Marketplace. So what that brings them as well is greater efficiency when they transact locally, which is also one of the key contributors to the way how they've been able to grow globally with our service. All right, I wanted to bring up that fluidity slide one more time, right? Just to test if we've proven there, right? If you set it up the right way, right, your transactions will go smoothly around the globe. Couple of next steps to end this presentation, right? Maybe not today, maybe after reInvent, once you rested a little bit again, is do validation. If you're already a seller on the AWS Marketplace, compare your current setup in the marketplace to how you go to the market generally. Follow Alex's best practice, right, in optimizing your listings to the countries you want to operate in. And then plan and implement your product-led growth strategy using the support of our Seller Prime program. And then do constantly review, right, how your strategy is performing, right? Do always have a critical eye, double-clicking on those campaigns that are converting well, double down on those, right, where you see room for improvement. Don't shy away, right? Keep on iterating to grow your marketplace business globally. Couple of things, you can find us on the AWS Marketplace booth if you want to double click on one or two things that we presented today, or if you want to self-study, here's some additional material available around Seller Prime. We also just published a blog post around the best practices and the trends we're seeing around the operational support of international expansion. Work through that. Remember Alex and me, once you implemented your strategy, reach out to us and become the next case study of our next year's reInvent presentation. With that, I want to thank you a lot for spending 20 minutes with us and learning about the AWS Marketplace today. Thank you.